What is going on? We are back at it again with another episode of TruCapacity Talks. And today we have gym owner, athlete, and coach to many wild athletes, Andy Coggins, today, owner of Allsouth Barbell. Andy, today, how are you doing?
I'm good, James. Thanks for having me on. Excited to have a discussion with you and shed some more light on weightlifting for people who may not know much.
Yeah, dude. So let's kind of start with how you even got into weightlifting in the first place. Athlete, coach. I mean, obviously there's a progression that you got to where you're at right now, but where did it all start?
I'll give you the short of it. Spent a lot of time in high school and after the 96 Olympics doing weightlifting. Learned a little bit from my dad, enough so that high school strength coaches back then could not hurt me when they started loading us down for football and wrestling and track. And did so much of that, got severely overworked in high school sports in the weight room, just because there's so much less knowledge then than there is now. And got pushed away from it after high school, just didn't want to do it anymore. Got into bodybuilding, had some fun with that, discovered that I liked eating a hell of a lot more than I liked being lean. Broccoli and steamed chicken or steamed broccoli and boiled chicken just doesn't do it for me. Got away from it for a few years, got back towards some athletic type stuff with some powerlifting and strongman, and then started coaching local football team to help out with it was a private Christian school, and they were terrible. They were like 0-12 one year, and then their offensive coordinator came into the gym I was training in and helping work in a little bit. And we hit it off pretty good. He's still a close friend of mine, and asked me if I would come out and just look at what's going on and see if I could consult them. I got out there, and the very next day I told him, I was like, you need way more help than a consultation. I'll come help you. And then like a month later, not only was I coaching their offensive line and helping with the defensive line, I was also acting as their strength coach because they didn't have one. And so I was teaching them weightlifting movements because it's what we did in our high school that made us more violent, more aggressive, more strong, more explosive, all those good things that really pay off, especially on the football field and all other sports as well. Don't get that twisted up. And the very next year, they went from 0-12 one year to 11-1 the next year. The only one they lost was their championship in their league. And so we saw a massive increase in how they were able to perform just off of the Olympic lifts and adding in strength work. And, I'm sure that me coaching the line helped a little bit too, because there was some organization and whatnot. But at the same time, stronger is better, more athletic. Let's be healthier and let's not get injured as much. And so from there, moved on to a bigger school, had some success there. Ran into a friend of mine who is now one of my best friends, and he kind of got me back into actually weightlifting and competing. I had never competed in weightlifting before that, but I had always done weightlifting and started competing with him, had a lot of fun. And then some of my kids started graduating high school, wanted to keep weightlifting, so I started teaching myself more. And the more I taught them, the more I learned. The more I learned, the better coach and athlete I became in weightlifting. And then, long story short, moved to the north side of Atlanta, chasing a girl, if you would believe it. Probably the worst decision I ever made, but ended up being the best decision I ever made. We broke up recently after that, or shortly after that, and I went through a depression, right? Like, probably the worst depression I've ever been in of my young so far life. And luckily, some of those athletes wanted to keep weightlifting, and they kept on me about it, even though I had moved to the north side away from them. And they kept me going in weightlifting. I just buried my head into my training, and it got to a point where I was able to quit my full-time job working in logistics and shipping, all that good stuff. I was making good money, but I was like, this isn't what I want to do. I was working way too much time. And I took on contracting jobs, worked for a general contractor to pay the bills, and then worked part-time there and part-time coaching. And it got to a point where it grew where I could finally take over and go full-time coaching in 2000, spring of 18, I think was when I stopped doing general contracting. And then we became a business in the end of 17 or end of 16. We opened our first brick and mortar in 2019. And then we tripled or doubled our space moving into our new location in 2022. So we're in our current space, 6,000 square foot facility. 2,000 square foot of that is platform space for weightlifting. The rest of the space is functional for bodybuilding, CrossFit, sports performance, competitions, anything we want to do. We have a front desk area, reception, foyer, an office for me. It's awesome. Couldn't be any better. And best part is we're hidden from the road. Like, you have to know where we are to come see us, so we don't get a ton of random walk-in traffic unless they're actually there to get better, which makes it great.
Wow, that's a hell of a summary. That's a lot of jump too.
Yeah.
I kind of want to let's piece this apart. I want to go back to that first school that you were at, right? So this time you didn't have certifications. You weren't like technically a weightlifting coach. You had just had tons of personal experience, right? I hear that correct?
Well, I didn't have any teaching certifications or anything like that, but I've been a certified personal trainer since I was 18 years old. So I already had a certification. It wasn't specifically in weightlifting, but I knew how to teach people about exercise and fitness and things like that. So it wasn't just a random guy off the street. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. No, and I was just curious what the current state was at that time. So you come in, right? And if you had to rate those guys' lifts, right? Like, even I'm sure that they weren't snatching and overhead squatting, but let's say like they were just cleaning, any type, right? On a 1 to 10, 1 being, hey, this is atrocious, you should never do that again, and 10 being, oh, you're ready to go and actually take this serious in Olympic weightlifting itself. Where were they at when you came in?
Well, the offensive coordinator that kind of got me over there was a CrossFitter, and he had kind of taught them a little bit. So they were probably mid-range. They had the idea, but they were mostly very, very bad. But it didn't take very long. I got some really great athletes out of that. The ones that listened, of course, it's a group of high schoolers. So the ones that actually listened actually got a lot better. And we found some really good weightlifters out of it, 5-6 years down the road. We were able to find one kid in that team, actually did ballet when he was younger because his mom was a dance teacher. And he was the most flexible person I've ever worked with in my life. He could, you ever seen a dog where they'll sit down on their butt and scrub their butt across the floor? He could do that. You know what I mean? So like, that's amazing for a weightlifting coach to be able to see that and be like, I don't have to teach you a whole lot other than how to get strong and move your body. And taught him how to move his body, but the guy was so flexible he couldn't get strong. Like some tightness is good tightness, and he just didn't have tension. It's crazy.
Wow.
He's still one of my favorite people though, like little brother.
Yeah. Did he top out at like a certain number, or was it just like, hey, we can't really progress past this unless you have a little bit more like intra-abdominal tension? Like, unless you could stay more stable, like you're all over the place.
It wasn't even that bad, James. Like he was able to snatch 100 kilos and clean and jerk. Well, so let's say 225 and clean and jerk about 275 before we slowed down because he needed to just get stronger with his back squat and everything. It was never a problem with like abdominal pressure. It was like his joints, like his knees. And like he could sit down so low that he didn't have any tension to get up with, and it just got to a point where we didn't have to stop for a reason other than he got married and got super busy with work
Yeah.
trying to provide for a family. He still lifts, and he's still able to go hit basically 95% of his best, no problem, training like twice a week. He's just too busy now to really
Yeah.
push on.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting to see people that are, I don't want to say hypermobile, because I think that's definitely overused, but people that don't have any it's like completely passive at the bottom. How are you to press out of your heels if you can drop into the bottom of squat and your butt is touching your calves?
Exactly.
Like, how the heck is that going to happen?
Yeah. I don't know, man. They just work hard on it, and it becomes a lot more hard on whether you want to get something done or not.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So when you're at that school, you had already known kind of how to teach people how to move their body, how to get up under load, how to coach cues to get people better. If someone's completely off the street though, and someone comes into your gym and is like, "Hey, Andy, I've seen this thing in the Olympics, right? I've seen these people lift this cool weight, right? I want to do that snatch thing. I want to do that clean thing." I mean, where do you start people off at?
Well, I'm gonna plug the USA weightlifting certifications because they do a great job. They have a good progression. It's really easy to teach anyone from this little kid all the way up to an adult. And outside of some small variations depending on the person, we start the same way. Can they do a front squat? Right? If they can do a front squat, then we know they have enough tension in their abdominal region to hold themselves upright in good posture. Can they set up on a bar for a snatch deadlift? If they can't get down to the bar and get their back nice and set, then they're probably not safe enough yet to be doing a lot of pulling off the ground, which in weightlifting, it's basically all we do. And then beyond that, we teach them, can they overhead squat? Can they hold good shoulder position? And those are the three main things. If you can't do those three main things, then we need to stay with those things and work around everything in those three things until we can. And then once we can, then you progress.
Got it. Okay. So hitting those core, basically core competencies for weightlifting in general before you touch anything else. Like, we're not going to do snatch balances and pulling out of a rack and try and do clean pulls and all this other stuff
Right. I
if
mean,
we can't get into the positions.
correct. But you can always make someone stronger while you're working those things.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone can do a good back squat, but they just can't hold the front rack, well, I'm still going to take an athlete and help them get stronger while I'm working on their mobility, right? So we'll do skill work and flexibility stuff for the front rack. But when we're done with that stuff, I'm going to put you in the back squat. I'm going to put you in the rack, and I'm going to make you work, because when you get to those positions where you can, then you'll be stronger, meaning you can hold the position I'm going to put you in better. This is still a strength sport, whether it's all mostly technique and athleticism or not. If you're not strong, you can't hold the position I want you to be in at a certain load, right? You're going to break down. So if you can only hold your position with a 95 pound bar, if you increase your overall body strength with the deadlift or the squat, then odds are that threshold is going to move up some. So if you can't hold those positions, those basics and the competencies we want, I'm going to increase your threshold where it takes longer to find that threshold once you can.
Yeah. In the front rack, I mean, you're talking about increasing their capability to push on back squat. Do you ever regress someone in a front squat down to straps or anything just to get comfortable with having elbows up and front squatting?
Injuries. If someone has a wrist or a shoulder or an elbow or something that is stopping them from being able to get into a full front rack, then we'll do straps. Or I've even broken down to somebody at that old classic Indian style,
Yeah.
or arms crossed. I guess I can't say Indian style anymore.
But the palms down, right? The pronated position on top of the bar. Yeah.
Right. Like just holding that arms crossed where the bar is still in the front rack, or even zombie, right, where their arms are up.
Those suck, man. Not a fan.
We'll do those things, but we use them as variations when you can't hold the actual position you need to be in, right? At the end of the day, in weightlifting, it's 100% overuse. Everything we do is the same thing over and over. in different variations, different frequencies, different intensities. Everything is the same. That's why you see wrists, elbows, shoulders, low backs, and knees get pissy in weightlifting, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's all the same stuff. So, when an athlete starts talking to me about something bothering them a little bit, then we'll modify to a variation that should help that issue cool off, right? Or we'll lower the volume of that position we're actually in as much as we can down to the bare minimum. So like if I want someone snatching, but then again, they're also overhead squatting for strength or something like that 3 days a week. Well, I want them snatching more than I want them overhead squatting because they need to be snatching, right? So we'll lower the volume on the overhead squat or take away the snatch balances and things like that. If somebody's back is bothering them, well, then I'm probably going to take away the deadlifts, the pulls, things like that before I take away the snatch and the clean and jerk. And then before I take away the snatch and the clean and jerk altogether, I'm probably going to take them into a high hang or a block work to take the back out of it some before I take that away too, because I don't want them hurt, but we still need to progress forward, even if we're moving dirt with a little spoon, right? You still move forward, whether it's a spoon or a bulldozer, you're just moving dirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow. And it sounds like you're speaking about sport specificity to get better at Olympic weightlifting in general. But that's got to be probably the same thing when people are coming to see you. It's not just people that want to compete, right? It's people that want to just get better at it because they enjoy it.
Right. We have everything. We have people up to 65 years old that do it for fitness and life. Oh, excuse me. All the way down to I have my youngest is 10 years old. Well, that's not true. She is younger than that, but I don't talk about her much. The youngest that is actually lifting is 10. And everything peppered between is parents with kids, kids who play sports in middle or high school, actual weightlifters that are in high school or college, senior level weightlifters that are out in college or out of college who are competing for national medals and international teams, right? We even have some international competitors on our team. So, we have everything. And we actually have one guy on the team who is a sprinter. He's a master's age track sprinter in the 100 meters and was in the Olympic trials in the early 2000s. I don't know if it's 2004 or 2000, but he is a beast. And we're untraining some things he learned in track of habits and things that don't really match up for the weight room. But he is one of the most explosive people I've ever worked with, even if he's not moving as much weight. It's crazy. Everything is available. Anyone can do it. It's just like, CrossFit always talks about scaling workouts and moving things down based on the person's capabilities. It's the same thing for weightlifting. We're all going to be able to do it. We're all going to do the same stuff. It's whether or not you're doing the full, you're competent in everything and you're able to do the entire thing, or are you broken down to a small variation of it, right? The benefit is unlimited no matter what you do, no matter where you are as an athlete.
Yeah. And you said Olympic weightlifting is for anyone. So it might be for anyone, but do you think it's best for everyone?
Ooh, that's a hot one. I think if you had asked me that 5 years ago, I would have said yes. Now, I'm going to say no, right? I think that some people probably don't need to be doing it, not because they can't or shouldn't down the road, but they're probably just not in the position they need to be doing it right then.
Yeah. I think that's a hell of an honest answer because I sat in the same position that you just went through on CrossFit myself. I used to say CrossFit's for everyone. Anyone and everyone should be in there. Today, after coaching thousands of CrossFit sessions, I don't think that day one it's for everyone. I really don't. I think anyone can do it, but should everyone do it? I don't think so. So right. That's interesting. That's interesting that a lot of people are absolutists in their own discipline. And so I appreciate your honesty there. And you mentioned your sprinter, right? The Olympic trial sprinter is wildly explosive. Do you think that there's a specific modality or discipline or sport when someone's a kid that best sets them up to excel in weightlifting?
That's Yes, there are sports that probably lend into learning to be more explosive, and that leads into another conversation about like it's a learned idea I can get to in just a second, but track, throwing, or so running, throwing. I do believe wrestling is really good because you learn how to move your body in space against an object,
Mm-hmm.
right? Gymnastics is amazing for young children, right? Like anyone under 10, male or female, if you can get in some gymnastics work and stick with it, you are going to be a hell of a weightlifter one day if you choose so. Ballet, I do think that young man that was so
Whoa.
good, I do think that young man that was so flexible could be a very good weightlifter, but I think that he probably had too much ballet and it when he was really young, and so
Mm-hmm.
he just held way too much of that flexibility that we all have when we're younger. He held too much of it for way too long. So I think that ballet in moderation would be very good to help you hold flexibilities. And then swimming. We've seen
That's unexpected, Andy. Swimming?
we have seen in USA weightlifting swimmers come out of nowhere. Like our strongest weightlifter in the country, he's a super heavyweight. He's got, I don't know, I'm going to exaggerate here. He's like 7 feet tall when I stand next to him, but I'm a short guy. And he probably weighs, I don't know, 320, maybe 330, maybe more. I'm not sure. But he's a very large man. He came out of swimming and he's got a well over 400-pound snatch, and he's got right up on a 500-pound clean and jerk. And this is a swimmer, right? So there's other swimmers throughout the line, but he's the one that sticks out. There are so many swimmers that turn out to be really good weightlifters.
Swimming. I would have not thought that swimming of all things. I mean, is it the overhead mobility?
Think about all the overhead mobility
Mm-hmm.
because you're constantly coming over with the stroke,
Mm-hmm.
but then also all the back work and the lat work from pulling yourself through that pool and how much strength you need in your back to hold a barbell the right way.
Yeah, and how
Right.
much stability they're also getting, like small and big. We're talking like you're working your back the whole time you're swimming.
Yep.
So I
And
guess that makes more sense.
also think about soccer players. Like soccer players make good weightlifters too because they're constantly running. They have those big, strong legs and thighs. Same thing for a swimmer. When they're kicking the whole time, that leg is just working, 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 working. So you come in and you're already strong, even though you have to learn how to work against a different resistance, right? The pool resistance, the water is different than a barbell, but you're still working against resistance. So you're going to be stronger when you get to it.
Now, I guess question on the clarification on the soccer side, when I think, hey, soccer translates to weightlifting, the way that I would immediately knee jerk say that probably women's soccer, because women's physique, and I could be totally wrong, please correct me, but women's physique, when I think soccer, like in high school, college, what have you, larger leg than the men's physiques when they're playing soccer. So like that large, that like the same, obviously you got power output, right? You've got two people that are running up and down all the time, having to understand how to change directions, be explosive, get to the ball, get away from the ball, place a kick places. I would have to, I mean, on my end, I immediately think that women may have more carryover than men. That's 100% biased by me just looking at physiques. Am I wrong? Is it kind of both or?
I don't know. Like I think you're probably on to something thinking about it from the outside looking in, but I've seen male and female soccer players in weightlifting do really well. One of the strongest young men, he's a high schooler in my gym, was a soccer player when he was younger. And this kid, he's 16 years old and he's going to squat 500 before the end of the year.
That's disgusting.
He only weighs about 165 pounds.
Even more disgusting.
He's already got a 500 plus pound deadlift. Like this kid is not weak and has the big muscle belly that you're talking about in female soccer. He already has that also.
Yeah. I mean, where we have like, a 3 quad split, and then you also have very solid separation from hamstring and glutes, like developed younger. in high school athletes on the soccer, like on the soccer field, where you don't see it in football with the average person. You don't see it in tennis with the average person, or baseball with the average person. Like a lot of the high performing soccer players in high school, they've got wild physiques. They
Right.
said that where I went to school, like it was kind of wild. They were like, they looked like some of the most fit people in the school.
Absolutely. We had some great soccer athletes when I was younger and in college. But it wasn't until I got into weightlifting that I started noticing the carryover from sports to weightlifting. And then also, like, it also brings me back to, if all these people would do weightlifting while they were in their sport, how much better would they be, one, at their sport, but also at weightlifting afterwards, right? Not just transitioning from one sport into weightlifting to keep competing. If we were another country like a China or a Soviet type country, and like the Europeans and things like that, where we had state sponsored type, I'm not going to say doping because I'm not talking about doping, but state sponsored sports schools where we filtered kids in based on body type, combine type stuff into sports that would help them, what could the US be internationally, right? Like, we're already rising on our competitive level from what we were 10 years ago. We're doing great. But what could we be if we had those things?
Yeah.
You
That's
never know
interesting.
without doing it.
The development where you're talking like from grade school on, like as early as some of these other countries do put people into weightlifting programs, do put people into cross training, right? Sport to sport, doing gymnastics and doing weightlifting at the same time while they're also playing soccer. So like these kids are coming in and getting to maybe a U in their own respective countries, but with so much more experience, like day one, than
Yeah.
what canvas you're given day one with somebody.
Yeah, some of these other countries, like, I'm probably wrong on the numbers, but I know that in China they have these sports schools that they sort kids into as early as, I don't, maybe 6, 8, and
Damn.
and they live at the school, right? They get fed, they sleep, they get educated, right? They get school there, and they have a very specific regimen that they work through on the daily, where they're going to train at certain times of the day. They're going to get playtime. They're going to get education. Then food all around it, meant to help them grow big and strong. And by the time, you get to 20 years old and you got, say, 12 years of physical activity built for a specific thing, you're dominant.
Yeah. Now you said that we're on the rise. The US is on the rise. How do we legitimately stack up? And you're probably gonna have to give a little bit of background of how things are competed on the international level, like on the international stage in weightlifting, because I have little to no idea, and I'm sure a lot of other people don't either. But how does the US stack up with other countries currently?
Well, I think, so the best way to explain it would be 10 years ago and farther back, we were not competitive at all. Our women have been competitive for about 10 years. They've been starting to grow, and to the point where our women are extremely competitive now. We have multiple world champions that are still competing in the women's side. We have some world records in different age brackets. And our men are starting to come up, but for the longest time, we were always more of a bottom feeder country as far as weightlifting was. Let's say past the year 2000, maybe past the year 1990. We've never been that great. We've had some people that in there that were like superstars, right? But we'd never really had a team or as a country that did really well. And now we're at a point where our women are winning team titles. They're winning, second place as a team against countries that have always been very, very competitive. I think, I could be wrong because I'm spouting off my head right now. I don't have stuff in front of me. I think our women took second at the last World Championship, which was, I don't know, less than a month ago, something like that. And they've been winning a lot of titles in the Pan Am regions as far as like total team titles. Just the women are just killing it. And our men are starting to win some medals and get on podiums and things like that. we have some very, very good athletes, but as a team, we are rising.
So got some standout individuals, but overall, like the collective is we're starting to get up and get much
Correct.
better.
Correct. Yeah, I'd say we've been on the rise since around 2015 or 16.
Heck yeah. And so outside of the individual, how are the teams scored?
Um, I'm not exactly sure, but I'll tell you nationally they're scored. Um, like if you have, let's say you have 28 teams, 28
Mhm.
countries, right? If you get a gold medal, you get 28 points, right? If you get silver, 27, and so on and so on. So the higher you place, the more points you get. And then I don't know how they push all the points together. Like it could be you pick 5 out of your 10 weight classes, and
Mhm.
that's your team, or it could be all 10. I'm not exactly sure on the international level. On the national level, though, in the American Open finals, American Open series type meets, it's a co-ed team. So you have 5 people male. It had to be at least 2 female, I think. And then they take those type of points based on their placement, and then you add all of the points together to get top points, gold, silver, bronze.
Okay. And those teams, when you're talking about the national level, that's competitive based on gym. So like Allsouth would go against another team, would go against another team, would go against another team.
If you sign up, so like you don't have to sign up as a team. You can be individual
Mhm.
stuff. Um, you can be on individuals. You can be on individuals, but it takes, like, you need to have more people there to sign up as a team. So our gym signed up last year as a team.
Mhm.
We put in 2 different teams. Our first team got third. Our second team got fifth. So we did
Okay.
really well, right? Um, this year we'll probably put in a team again and hope that we can probably pull up to second at least and go up from there, because we got some guys ready to go.
Okay. Yeah, I think we were talking before we jumped on here. You said in 2017, your first athlete out of Allsouth qualified.
Correct.
2017.
2017, my first athlete qualified for the American Open finals. Um, didn't have anybody else qualify for anything higher then. And this year we have 17 qualified from Allsouth Barbell. And that first athlete that qualified is still lifting.
Heck yeah. Pretty solid progress from 2017 to now.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know any other teams in the area that have that many people qualified out of one gym. Um, and so we're excited not only to be one of the ones doing it the longest around the area, but also one of the best, strongest. We work hard. And our team works really well together. It's a lot of fun. They
Yeah,
make me they make me look a lot better than I feel like I am sometimes.
that's funny. For somebody to qualify, like obviously you can take a team if you have enough athletes from what you're saying from the gym that qualify to go, so you can make teams out of that. But on the individual side, is there thresholds? Do they have to go to another meet and qualify? Like, what does that look like?
So there's multiple, like a hierarchy of competitions in the national level. You're looking at, you have local level meets, which is any gym, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can sanction a local meet
Mhm.
and put it on. You have to be a USA weightlifting member to lift in it. Um, and you can qualify for national level events in a local level meet. There are multiple levels of national level meet, right? The lowest level being the American Open Series, which is it's one of them's at the Arnold now. It used to be just kind of moving around the country, and then one of them is AO2, which is normally in the late summer, really early fall. That is that is the lowest level, and I say that because the qualifying totals for that meet are pretty much low enough that anyone, if you work hard enough for the first year, maybe 2 years, some people maybe 3 years. Just about anyone can make those totals. They are not massive totals. The next level up would be, I would say, collegiate nationals, U25, U23. They're all the same totals, really. They're not massive either, but they're meant for students and younger people who are getting into their professional life to keep people competing and keep them excited for something, year in and year out to compete for. And then the next level up is probably the seniors. The seniors, there's two meets that are the top end of the national level, and that's the American Open Finals, which is coming up in December. Those totals are significant. You have to do some hard work to get there. And then the senior nationals, which is above that, is about 5% higher than that, right? So by the time you make it to senior nationals, you've done some things, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want to go on without saying that there is a youth nationals also. The youth nationals totals, once you get past, let's say, 11 or 12 years old, mm-hmm. are pretty impressive for these kids to hit, right? Like especially the 15 through like 17, those totals are pretty impressive for some of the kids to hit, especially the smaller weight classes, and some of the big, like really big ones are very impressive totals for kids who might be in high school or middle school trying to get after. Luckily in Georgia, we have a very, very good youth presence, and it's fun to watch all these kids at different meets get after it and hit big things, because they get all excited once they learn what it's about, and then they want to go back and they grow year on and year out. There's a couple of youth in Georgia that are really going to be good in the next few years, so it's exciting to see with different coaches and teams.
Heck yeah. Now, when you're saying that, hey, some of these totals are, hey, this is pretty exciting that people at this age, at this weight can hit that. Are we talking like percentages over body weight? Because obviously it probably cascades as your weight goes up. Obviously those totals go up, or is it kind of a sliding scale?
Oh man, there's a lot more that goes into qualifying totals than that. And I don't have everything in front of me to talk about it. That's also some operational stuff that I can't really share a lot of, because it's USA Weightlifting Board stuff that is proprietary information. But the best thing to say about it is that we make it where people can qualify, but you got to work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, and I wasn't looking for any secrets. I was just curious, like when you're saying, hey, someone's 15, right? Like let's maybe say someone last year or the year before, if someone qualifies at 15 and they weigh, I have no idea what people at 15 are weighing, but like, would it be outlandish for someone to hit a clean and jerk at 15 of 185 or 205?
No.
Pretty easy. Your face says it all. You're like, no, that's easy. This ain't CrossFit, James.
Well, like the reason I say that is because there's a lot of kids that are doing that, especially mm-hmm. at certain weight classes. Mm-hmm. Once you get to 15-ish years old, most of the kids are moving weight that a lot of adults move at maximum or can't move, right? And like they're especially the top end of those youth classes. Of course, there's people who barely qualify who aren't, mm-hmm. but there's a lot more that do than don't.
I mean, I think I've even seen some videos that y'all posted, or some of your athletes have posted, with some people that are much smaller than me throwing around weights that I can't touch on snatch, nowhere close. Like I couldn't even dream of today, right?
Correct.
Throwing around weights, I'm like, that is 3 plates, dude. You weigh like 170. I'm over 220. What are you doing? How? Some craziness, dude.
A lot of these people, man, like when they start training, it's all about frequency. Like,
yeah,
you're going to get good at what you do every day.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you get taught to brush your teeth every day, and
mm-hmm.
you get to a point where it's a habit and you just stick with it. Well, a lot of these kids not only are brushing their teeth, but they're snatching, clean and jerking, and back squatting, and they get really dang good at it. And then it's really exciting to watch them do it. They are very impressive, and their coaches are always working really hard to make sure that they stay that way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, I appreciate the insight. Your favorite type of person to work with that walks in, of any age, of any background, what characteristics or qualities do they have? Your best athlete.
Okay. That's a good question. And the answer's probably changed a lot over the last few years.
Let's go.
Yeah. Earlier I said 5 years ago, I would have said X.
Mhm.
Let's say 5 years ago, I would have said, I want the college athlete that is finishing college, so doesn't have a huge load of school left, isn't working yet, doesn't have a ton of bills, might maybe still living at home, or has a roommate, so like they don't have a ton of financial burden. I want them. And when I first started, I actually set my prices to a point that person could afford it no matter what, right? Because that's what I wanted to coach. Now, not so much. I don't want that anymore. Like I will take someone who has never done it, but works hard, listens well, right? And maybe doesn't have the most talent in the world, but that hard worker can still learn how to do it and do it really well. I've taken a few people that are just not athletic and seen them do some very, very impressive things. And that impressive thing to that person means a hell of a lot more than the athlete that is, blessed, right? And so like that level of excitement and fun is almost unmatched, because it can also come more often to that person, where the person who's talented, the ceiling is so much higher that you might not see it but once, right? Might not ever see it, because what they think is exciting or what they should do that's exciting is a lot higher, right? Plus, then you get to deal with attitudes, and there's a lot of people out there that are a little bit entitled and think that you should be working for them, or you should discount your prices because they deserve it. And when you discount your prices, I've learned over the last 10 years, people don't take it seriously, right? And you end up just wasting your time. So now, man, I want someone who works hard, communicates well. If you are grounded as a male or female enough that you can sit down and have a conversation with me about how you feel, what you feel, your frustrations, your outside stresses, how your body feels when you move. Like, are you in touch enough to say, when I do this, I feel this, right? Or if I program something and you think something is better after you've been with me a little while, and you can say, I'd like to do this because this feels better for what we're trying to accomplish than what you programmed. I want you. You know what I mean? So I've gone through a period in my training or my coaching career in my gym, where all the people that I thought were going to be the best have come and gone, worked themselves out, or been pushed out by me, right? And the people that have come into my gym since I stopped worrying about that have been nothing but wonderful and great additions to my business, my gym family, the culture. And it's honestly lowered my stress level to where I can have a little bit of a life outside of the gym, where before I was almost 7 days a week, always on duty, not possible of keeping that up. So long way to answer, but does that answer your question?
Definitely does. I think it's a solid insight. And you mentioned culture. I have yet to find, outside of a gym I'm not going to name on this podcast, that about, that I've been in. I've yet to see, outside of that gym and outside of CrossFit gyms, a ton of culture that I'm used to, where people are tight knit, people are hanging out, people are all together. Can you speak to what the culture of Allsouth looks like?
The best way to answer it is that we have a lot of fun with each other, right? We have multiple fantasy football leagues going on right now, where we all like football enough that we can play this and talk shit to each other, and and laugh at each other, and it gives us things to talk about in the gym. We have cookout. We try to have a cookout or a potluck at least twice a year. I always shoot for once a quarter, right? So at the end of the year, we're coming up on it. We have a spooky movie night where we vote on scary movies in our Instagram story and let people outside of the gym kind of pick what we're going to watch that night. And we all dress up. Best costume gets an Amazon gift card from me in the gym, and we have a lot of fun, man. When we host a meet, everyone pitches in and we get it done. They know that our events are a big thing about what we do because we're so good at it, and everyone wants that to continue. So everybody pitches in. Also at sometimes a great cost to me. My whole thing is I will give you the shirt off my back if it'll help you, because I care about you enough as an athlete and a person outside of the gym that I want to see you succeed. And so, like, people have borrowed my pickup truck before to move. I'm across the country at a meet and somebody says there's an issue, and we'll be able to line up people from the gym to go help them move or get help off the interstate. They got a flat tire. There is something very special about the group of people that I have, and it's never been better than it is right now, ever. And I hope people hear it that have been part of it back in the day, and I hope that they understand that they're not a part of it is part of the reason it's better. Fire. I'm at a point now that I can say that, like, I wish they were still a part of it, but they were part of some of the problems that we've had. Yeah. And so I can say that now, and I would tell them the same thing to their face.
Yeah, man. You seem to be a straight shooter. Andy, at what point did you know that for you to have the impact that you're having right now, you had to own a gym and not just coach?
Oh, that's another double-edged sword, because I wish I didn't own a gym.
Let's unpack it.
Yeah, like I always wanted to own a gym, but now as a business owner, I wish I didn't. In 2024, my goal is to hire a business manager so that I don't have to own a gym. I just have to sign things and make sure that I'm not getting screwed on the back end. Because my greatest pleasure in life is coaching and not all the nitty-gritty day-to-day business stuff. I hate social media, right? I don't want to be on social media for anything other than my personal life, having fun. I hate having to get on there and parade my business out there because it's something that you kind of have to do now in what we do. And so if I had someone that was able to do that for me, then that would make things wonderful for me, right? Where I could just coach, right? So I would say, don't own a gym. If you can find the right situation as a coach where you are able to do the things that you want to do, then keep doing it there, right? I was not able to find that, and that's why I created my gym. That's the best answer I think I can give you. That is, I created the space that I needed to have the impact that I wanted and to be able to grow my influence. And it's done what I wanted it to do.
So, seems like you're saying that had you never done the thing that you didn't really want to do, you wouldn't have been able to have the impact that you've had up to this point.
Correct. I would not be doing what I'm doing had I not done what I did. Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of words. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now had I not created the gym and like done what I'm doing, these shirts are recognized just about everywhere we go. People at national meets, if they asked for something, like somebody's traveling to Georgia, they'll be asking around, and people will be like, go talk to Andy. He's the guy in Georgia, and he can tell you, if you're not going to be near him, he can tell you where to go, right? He can set you up with the information that you need. I've been able to meet people that have, grown me to a place that they feel confident that I can help govern their sport. I've been able to get on the board of directors for USA Weightlifting, which is amazing. I've learned so much since being on that about not just, ins and outs of more of weightlifting, but how to lead, right? Like what's going on, how to look at things. And it's changed a little bit about how I do my business, right? A little bit, not a lot, but some of the good things, right? Probably also how I'm going to look for that business manager will be influenced by some of the stuff I've learned on the board, right? So all experiences so far have been good experiences. And so I wouldn't change owning a gym, but I definitely would warn, be ready to learn something every day and to question yourself for a long time.
Fair enough. So, Andy, you're out here teaching and you're out here helping other people learn all the time. But who teaches you? What one person has been the biggest influence that you've learned from?
That's a good question. I've had so much influence. I've had so much influence, one from my teachers when I was younger. I had some very special teachers throughout high school and college that shaped a lot of how I look at things, and not just like in the classroom, but like, in conversations in offices and things like that, where I would say something and then they would be like, keep going, keep talking about that. And then we would have a conversation. A lot of how I think about things was influenced by my dad, not around anymore, but made a big impact on kind of how I keep myself really even keel. People around me know that it takes a lot to get me pissed off, right? And you're going to see a lot of warning signs before it comes up and becomes a problem. In that also, though, I've also learned from that how to communicate that's coming up and let you know that you're probably not communicating with me the way that you need to, and you might want to choose a different way to get what you want out of me. And then beyond that, like my weightlifting coach, who is still coaching me, he's 80 years old. His name's Ben Green, and he is, as I guess the word's ornery, right? He is awesome. So much fun. So many stories, so much history. He shaped a lot of what I do and how I think about things. And then the influence beyond that, I'd say that he's helped me with my coaching philosophy, like the core of it. And then I've added things onto the outside, which is a little more, because he's a little more, let's call it old school, right? The philosophy, like at the core, it's hard work. We're not going to pull punches on it. You're going to have to work hard. But on the outside of it, I've been able to add a bunch of ideas from coaches that have done things since him that have helped me a lot. One of the best weightlifters in our country, he'll definitely be in the Hall of Fame one day, is Travis Cooper. He's from Georgia, lives in Northeast now. He's the only male weightlifter that was on every international team leading up to the 2016 Olympics, but didn't go to the Olympics. Got beat out at the last minute. But he's the only male that made every single team and got his shot to go and just got beat, right? Still makes international teams. He's going to the Pan Am Games he's my age, and he's going to the Pan Am Games in 2 months, still representing Team USA, right? He's been won, I think, like 8 national championships now, right? Like amazing weightlifter and a good business mind, a good mind for weightlifting, looks at things a certain way. I've learned a lot from him. The guy who got me back into weightlifting, who's now one of my best friends and is honestly going to end up probably being my business partner down the road. Right now, I just hired him to help me at the gym and grow some more programs at the gym. He's probably going to end up being a partner down the road. Learned a lot from him too, like the way we think about things, and you know, not just. I think that my part of being a little less absolute probably comes through him, because he is so has so much variety in his training, right? And that he's still able to hold a very good level of fitness when he's training in weightlifting, while still, running marathons and all this other stuff that he does. And so the idea that we don't have to be so absolute, I think probably stems a lot from him. And then uh, another one, his name is John Bros. You may not know who that is. He ran a gym in Las Vegas for a long time, and he told me before I ever opened my gym, don't open your gym. Don't open a gym. Don't do it. If you like coaching, find a place to do it. And I ignored him, right? I still opened my gym, and then I understood why later on what he said. But had a lot of fun. I like his mentality and how he thought about things, and we had a lot of good conversations about it when we did it. So when we had time to talk. So there's probably a ton more. I'm going to forget about a bunch of them, but man, I've had some great people who have instilled a lot of great knowledge and wisdom onto me. And if I could thank every single one of them, then I probably would, because a lot more of it stuck than they probably think. It just probably doesn't show until it needs to.
You tipped your hat to a multitude of individuals there.
Yeah.
How do you think that you wound up with such positive influences in so many different areas and people pushing you to be better, no matter how high you got in anything?
Honestly, man, I think good things happen to good people. And I've always been a person like the same thing with me giving my shirt to anyone in my club. They all know that I would help them out if they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is just my nature. You know what I mean? And I've always been that way to just about anyone, inside weightlifting, outside weightlifting, whatever. Right. And I think that that's part of it. I think that, there's always a reason for things that happen in the universe. You can get into religion and all that stuff all you want, but, let's just keep it real simple and say that things happen for a reason, and good things happen to good people. And whether or not everyone likes me or not, they'll always know that, you know, I'm an honest person. I'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And if you need me and something comes up and the hour's dark, you'll probably get me to come help you. I think
Well,
people know that, whether you like me or not.
I think it goes past liking you or not. I've only known you by proxy of a mutual between you and I. I've only known you that way. This is the first time that I've ever spoken to you outside of when we were filming for the app and I said, "What's up?" for like 2 seconds. But you're spoken about in your absence as you show up in person. You're spoken about in your absence as you are right now. You're spoken about like this. You're not spoken about differently than who you are. And that says a lot about your character, because most people are not spoken about in necessarily positive lights in their absence all the time. I think that says something
That's
about the
good to
club,
hear.
about you, about the influence, about, people may disagree, agree, disagree, whatever, but I've not heard from anyone in the CrossFit community, in the weightlifting community in Atlanta, or through the proxy that I was first introduced to you by, ever anything negative. It's always been, this is who he is, this is what he stands on, this is what he's about, and this is what you're going to get from him. Been pretty
Well,
damn consistent.
then I've done my job so far.
Yeah, man. So you've done your job, but what is the North Star for Allsouth? Is it X amount of people qualifying? Is it you touch X amount of lives? Is it you do 501c3 altruistic work down the road? Like, what is the North Star outside of you not having to do the business stuff yourself?
Okay, so one of the things I wrote down, our core stuff for the business, is that I was never going to share what we wanted to do down the road because,
Oh my.
well, I used to.
Yeah.
I've seen multiple gyms,
Mm-hmm.
one or two in Georgia and out in the region outside of the state, doing what I told them I was going to do. And so I don't share it anymore. but I can say that we are nowhere near where we're going to be. There's always going to be education involved as far as teaching people, and that's, teaching people to move with the barbell, teaching people how to coach better, teaching people how to be better in life, like young people, how to think about things, through experiences of our coaches and people in the club, right? There's always going to be education involved. There's always going to be strength involved. And I think that's all I got to say on that one for now. But I think people should follow us and stay tuned on what we're doing.
And when you inevitably grab somebody to do your social media so you don't have to do it, we'll see more of it, huh?
Well, I mean, like, there's a lot. The social media is growing again. Like I got away from it for a long time because I didn't want to do it anymore. But recently I've started pushing on the social media again because I've got a little bit of help through the guy I just hired. And he's helping me with like a part of it, and we're doing it together. So it's a little easier. So, it's worth looking at now and keeping up with, but I would say that we're probably 5 years from the next goal and probably 10 to 15 from where we actually want to be.
Let's go. Okay. That's good enough. That's a call out there where people are going to know that it's not over. You're not done.
Nowhere near it.
I love to hear that. I want to end on kind of a light note, but also what's your perspective, right? You are through and through Olympic weightlifting, right? I do not come from this side of the of fitness, of competition, right? My first introduction to Olympic weightlifting was in CrossFit, right? Maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Now it was in the form of, a low-level certification and tons of classes, not really taught necessarily very similar to how USAW, right, teaches from what I can see. For anyone that's in CrossFit, I mean, do you have a recommendation for people that are starting CrossFit, that are starting to see that, hey, on the board, we've got snatches, we got power snatches today, or we got squat cleans today up in a Metcon, or we have a strength? Like, what recommendations could you give to people that are new to those so that they can progress their weightlifting without having to say, man, I got to do CrossFit 5 days a week and weightlifting 3 times a week outside and do all this stuff?
Are we talking about somebody who just wants to get better at weightlifting, but they don't want to specifically do like that kind of 8 sessions a week, so many different domains of fitness? Or are we talking about somebody in a random gym that might be dabbling?
I'm talking about somebody that is exposed to the CrossFit methodology and all of the modalities up under, and is like, hey, I don't know that me just doing Metcons with power snatches in them and power cleans when they should be squat cleans, because I don't feel comfortable dropping in. How can I improve my weightlifting without living in the gym 7 sessions a week? Because my life is not CrossFit or weightlifting or gymnastics. I just want to progress to the best of my ability without getting injured. I don't need to be better tomorrow. I need to be better over the lifespan of me working out.
Okay. That's a good question. I would say to someone who doesn't want to spend more time in the gym, take your time in your workout. Like running through a Metcon and just repping over and over from the ground to overhead is not really helping your weightlifting, right? You are helping your fitness. You're helping your cardiovascular fitness, your endurance, things like that. I always tell people, CrossFitters, when they come see me, there's a switch. If you're a CrossFitter, there's a switch that you need to turn on and off. One of them is, I'm Metconning right now. I need to be able to move. Turn your switch off. If you're weightlifting, you turn your switch on and you're taking your time. You're getting set up the exact same way for every single rep you do. You're moving your feet the same way for every single rep. You're doing things for a specific purpose for weightlifting. There's a switch. You need to know the switch and need to know how to turn it on and off. For anyone who wants to do just a tiny bit more without going crazy, lots of gyms, including, let's say, some CrossFit gyms first, have some barbell clubs that work out of them. Go see them, right? Lots of them have barbell classes. Take the barbell class, not just the Metcon all the time, right? A lot of clubs around Atlanta and around the country, mine is one of them, have programs that are meant for CrossFitters to get more touches on the barbell with specific programming and coaching for weightlifting, right? Mine is a 2-day supplemental CrossFit membership, right? I don't want you to quit CrossFit. I want you to maybe take one less Metcon and come see me 2 days a week for an hour, right? Where you're going to get coached. You're going to be around the culture of the gym. So you're going to see a bunch of other weightlifters moving the right way, which is going to help you, right? You're not just looking at Mary in the corner that can't sit down and overhead squat. You're looking at a guy who's won a gold medal in the snatch move 300 pounds like it's a warm-up, right? Mm-hmm. And then on the back end of this program that I use at the gym, there's a small Metcon involved. So like you're still getting your breathe hard stuff, but you're going to spend 45 minutes doing a snatch or a clean and jerk, some type of strength movement that supplements supplements is the right word, supplements what you're doing in the variation for Olympic movements that day. And then you're doing some accessories that are put together in like a triplet or a couplet with a little bit of breathe hard in there. So you still get to breathe hard, but you're actually spending time on the movement, and there's no 1 hour time limit on your class, right? Like you can be in my gym for 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't care, as long as I don't close the doors and turn the lights off on you. You know, my gym, we work on currently, we have some things in the works, but that program works on an open gym format where I'm in the gym for these hours of the day. If you show up and there's nobody in the gym, it's a one-on-one. Congratulations. You just got me alone for as long as we're in the gym alone together, which is wonderful, right? Like you're paying this much a month and you just showed up for your session. If you show up all your sessions in a month, your session costs you $12.50. If you show up to all of them, congratulations. You just got a one-on-one for $12.50 because you showed up early and nobody else was there, right?
Yeah.
You're getting everything you need plus some, and then you can stay all night long if you want. I don't care. You know what I mean? Yeah. A lot of people like that right now. Mm-hmm. They're coming in the gym, they show up, they get some work with one or two other people in the gym, get a lot of attention from me or the other coaches in the gym because they're one of the only few in the gym. They get better really fast, and they're seeing progress in their Metcons. They're seeing progress in their strength. They're seeing progress in their confidence around the barbell. And so there is so much opportunity to get better at weightlifting without the 8 sessions a week or anything like that. All I ask people to do is give up one Metcon and come spend one extra session in the gym with me a week. And you know what? People like that.
Yeah. Well, it's tangible. And it's also, you're not telling people to quit what they're doing. That's like going to see an ortho or going to see a chiro or massage or a GP, and they're like, hey, you got to give up weightlifting to get better. And you're like, no, it's not going to happen. You're going to either help me work around it or it's not happening.
We've been talking about growth all day long. Yeah. 5 years ago, 5 years ago, mm-hmm. 5 years ago, I would have told them to quit CrossFit.
Yeah, man.
But I am not the same coach I was 5 years ago. I tell my athletes that all the time too. They'll ask me a question and I'll tell them 5 years ago, I would have told you to do exactly what you want to do, but now I'm going to tell you not to. You know, so constantly growing, learning, teaching. It's not just my athletes learning and stuff like that. It's me too.
It sounds like you got a good group of people around you, even if they're not in Georgia, in Atlanta, standing next to you at all times, right? You have a sphere of influence that has obviously pushed you to grow, or you wouldn't be sitting before me today with all these lessons and completely different answers between 5 years on 4 or 5 questions. Right? That's Correct. Pretty big. That's a pretty big shift, right? That's more learning than most people are doing in their adult years, for sure. Correct. So I want to respect your time, wrap up here. Where can the people find you? How can they get plugged in with you? What should they know about your gym, where it's at, and what you have coming up that is already publicly accessible? You don't have to give us any secrets, but in case anyone wants to lock in with you or the gym at all.
All right. Well, the best place to find me as far as and just watch is on Instagram. You can follow at Allsouth Barbell or at Allsouth Athletics. The actual gym is called Allsouth Athletics, but we've done business as Allsouth Barbell for the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years. And then you can contact me there through DM if you ever want to contact and chat with me. We do a free assessment for anyone who wants to come and get checked out. We'll spend about an hour with you looking at how you move, along with everybody in the gym, give you some basic pointers, and hopefully send you on your way happily back to wherever you were to get better at weightlifting. Beyond that, we have anything you want. You can do punch cards, you can do memberships, you can do remote training in and outside of the state. It's okay. We have ways for training in any way you want to train. Outside of that, you can email me, Andy@allsouthbarbell.com, if you have questions or concerns. And then beyond that, man, just move a barbell, get strong, have fun, and tag me if you want to. Right? We love seeing people move no matter what.
Heck yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time. Hold on 2 seconds. I'm going to stop the recording there.